Howdys and salutations, y'all. Hope you've had a good week so far. As you can see, it is the long-awaited, many months we've been building up to this, the long-awaited month of Blender. That's right, we're jumping into 3D modeling properly. Now, I know it's, been a little while since I refreshed on this. I did try to do some over the weekend, but unfortunately other things do find a way of cropping up. So, we are going to have to do just what we can, basically. As you can see, what we can do right now is, for the most part, an elegant render of the original cube. Although, let's actually use this rendering dealio. Oh, what was the strategy? I forget. There's so many things. I recommend, if you're actually going to start Blender, you should check out the Blender Guru YouTube channel first. Really phenomenal introduction on how to actually use the program. That's probably not what we're going to be covering here. Blender is, it is a complicated and not the most intuitive in the world, especially not when you can see what my overlay actually covers. Some important stuff up here, maybe. Maybe we can get some of that visible. We'll see. That's better. Looks weird on my end, but we'll make do. But yeah, so it's complicated. I'm not going to pretend that I'm going to be able to give a good introduction education to using it, but instead we're just going to use it to build some things so we'll be able to see what it can do, a small fraction of what it can do, really, and hopefully we'll have some fun with it. Plus, it's an excuse to mix it up from the digital sketching, which, for all we do it, isn't actually my favorite thing in the world in terms of art. I like more tangible things. 3D modeling has a little more of a kick to it, in my experience. I was going to say plus you can print it, but that's technically very true and, in fact, easier of 2D drawings. Okay, but for anyone who's actually seen Blender, you might note that this looks a little weird. This isn't actually the interface. This is what happens if you render the starting cube. So putting that away, here's what we're actually dealing with. And it's going to be a doozy, especially a doozy without a whole lot of mental refresh. So Let's just see if I'm going to run through these a little bit, make sure I remember where we're at. Okay, yep, that's like the world and lighting and scene. This, I'm not bothering with collection. That's like hierarchy of how things are stored in here. Not that important to us right now. It might become so later. Okay, physical location and scale, that's relevant. I believe units-wise, this is in meters. So if we wanted to do, again, this isn't really something I'm planning to print. And as far as lighting and effects go, I actually think this is a decent scale. If anything, we might need to make it larger. But we'll see why that's the case in a little bit. Let us just see what else is in here. Okay, modifiers, something very powerful we'll want to use later, not right away. I haven't even gotten into some of these. Oh, UV maps, that'll be fun later. And meshes, so we actually get patterns and materials. But again, that's maybe later today, maybe on Thursday we'll get into those. Depends on how we end up pacing. This song is feeling a little dreary, so I'm going to try to kick us up a notch on the energy, because I know I'm a little tired, and I don't need the music to be dragging me down further. So, step one, I should have popped this into pure ref, really, but if you'll give me just a moment to pull it up. What we're going to be doing today is modeling some ancient architecture, because that's kind of my jam. It's really fun to make 3D models of ancient works, and oftentimes, depending on the era you pick, you can get some pretty simple geometry, so it's actually not bad practice. So where we're going to be starting is the famous Ishtar Gate. Let's see. Oh, that's a good view. This is currently in a museum in Berlin. Plenty of art history debates about whether or not it should be there in the original location. That all gets very complicated, but is worth looking into. But I will say I have actually been there and seen it. It is super cool. And I highly recommend it anytime someone's stopping by Berlin. Just, next time you're over there, casual like. Although I guess, theoretically we could have viewers from Berlin, in which case go check out your museums if you haven't. They're cool. But yes, no, it's a very cool gate originally from Babylon. And yes, it is the actual one, although this is rebuilt from the remnants of it, so proportions and such may have been different in the OG. In fact, they were most likely significantly larger, which is hard to believe because you look at this picture and you realize that thing's like 60 feet tall already. Yeah, the ancient world wasn't kidding around with their buildings. They understood scale, and some of them could really pull it off. Highly recommend Persepolis if you ever have questions about another one that's massive, massive ancient ruins. Very cool. And culturally significant, and there's a million things we could dig into with those. But right now we're going to just start with the fact that it's fairly blocky and angular, and thus not a bad place to begin when attempting our 3D modeling. So, to that end, what we're going to start with is this cube here. And I'll be honest, I think even on the scale it might be a little small. Now we may not go for full recreation size, but let's at least give ourselves a little something to work with here. So that was, here we go. The scale, we're going to pop this up to 3 by 3 by 3. Right, we're eventually going to get a lot more. And let's see, I think it was Control A. When you scale something, you have the option to apply the scale, which means that this will become the new baseline. So formerly, we had our little 1 by 1 cube, which was actually 2 of these little grid squares by 2 of them, sort of like that. But we've scaled it up to a 3 by 3, so it would have been 6 of these little squares across. But now we're saying, like, no. This is our new baseline. In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter that much, but it can mess with stuff later if you don't do it. And given that we're in a space relative to nothing short of the camera, and we can rescale the camera, probably unnecessary in this case, but fun. So, we're going to start there, and then I think what we're going to want to do is actually trying to think of the better approach. Do I need vertices there? No. Okay. Let's go ahead and scale Z, which is going to be our vertical axis. Don't confuse it with Minecraft. The Minecraft Axis system does make sense in terms of its engine, but it doesn't match most other standards, which is where X and Y are two-dimensional and then Z is the third one. Because usually Z ends up being vertical, but in some systems they do X and Y sort of thinking of like the computer screen, and then Z becomes sort of depth. But in this case, that's not the case here. In this case, Z is up and down. I mean, we can maneuver ourselves however we want, so they can be whatever, but you export this someplace, up and down is still going to be Z, so it's worth paying attention to. And methinks, oh yeah, I mean, even this you can adjust whatever you're comfortable with, whatever series of them, knock yourselves out. Here's what Cortanian. Oh, okay, yeah, we won't mess with that one yet. Okay. Or maybe ever. But let's make this a little taller. So now that we've got these bigger units, I'm thinking we want this to be at least like 3 of these big units tall. I want to move the position up. So this one is in meters, so let's see if it's scaled or not. I want to move it, if we're at 9, let's move it 4.5 up. Okay, so it did scale. So then we'd be at 27, half of that would be what? 10, 13, 13.5? He thinks that's right. Unless it's not. I just typed that into Google and not Blender. That's not helpful. Okay, so that was wrong. Let's see. 3 by 3 times 3 should be 9, but I guess in any case, it looks like 9 gets us right on the axis, which means this is what, 18 units tall? Unless the origin's in a weird place. Well, in any case, proportionally, I think it's going to be okay. Just pulling this in here. You may notice there's 2 versions. It's actually been recreated in 2 different locations, one in Germany and one in the original place. And their proportions are different based on different guides and so on and so forth. I'm biased towards the one I've seen, of course, so that's the one that I'm going for. Historically, I'm not actually sure which has more architectural basis. I'm honestly not sure which is more accurate. So it's the one I'm going to go off of. I recommend if you're ever actually wanting to do research on this, you should go do proper research on it and figure out which one is truly the correct proportions. Hey, someone else is doing the same thing. Okay. There's a lot to Babylon, actually. Still being excavated and discovered and explored and all that jazz. Studied. It's a cool city. Let's tweak our scale down, though. I think for the base component of the tower, I think a 2-to-1 is actually roughly what I want. So, because they're wide columns on this, so let's bring this back down to like, I don't know, 6. Yeah, there we go. And I think I'm gonna apply the location actually. Want that to be, yeah, okay. Not shifted. This is just its home base. Now, here's where we're gonna get interesting with it a little bit, and by interesting, I acknowledge that this is a stretch of that word. But you may have noticed in our reference, which I am going to just go ahead and set up a pure ref now that I've had to jump back and forth between it like 3 times. That's getting a little silly. There's one. Oh, stinking weblock images. Ugh. Yes, they're very useful in certain situations, including loading web pages faster. But they're also a real pain when you're trying to just throw an image on your desktop real quick, you know? So let's throw pure ref on here. Get the Ishtar gate going in here. I don't know if the weblock will load. Does not seem to have. In fact, I'm not sure that's a weblock at all. It may just literally be a link. Anyway, regardless, unhelpful. So we will create our pure ref here. And we will put it somewhere that's a little bit out of the way. And make sure that we've got it going on here as well. Pure ref. And there it is. Okay. So here's what we're looking at. I'll make it much the right size as I can. That's weird. I don't like that. If I resize the pure ref window, it warps things. Let me See if I can't reset that. No, that's still warped. Obviously, that's a little warped too. Huh. Okay, so if I use shift, okay, cool. So proportions match now. So this is what we're looking at. It is. I'm going to actually adjust the proportions a tiny bit more again because I want these to be the same size. So if I hold shift while readjusting this, okay, cool. So here's what we're working with. I'll try to put this in a place that doesn't block things, but this is Blender, so that's everywhere is things. Uh, sorry about that. That's just kind of the way it works. You know, this doesn't block nearly as many of the tools as I had feared it would, although there's still some that are going to be missing. But that's fine. That's fine. Okay. So you can see we've got like one of the side columns here. But of course, we really need to add a few more things. First off, I'm just going to try to get one column looking good. So step one of that is I'm going to grab the bottom face. Actually, I'm going to go to edit mode. So you can sort of see the drop down here. We've been in object mode where we just interact with this thing as a thing. It's like, that is your rectangle. We're going to go to edit mode. So now we can select specific parts of it. It's still a rectangular prism, so it's only got like eight points on it. And we are in point select mode. These three boxes up here, up in the corner, one of them's obscured, and this is vertex select. And so I can literally just select a vertex and then just be like, yo, come with me. Or actually, hold on. I can select one vertex instead of three, then be like, well, that's still extruding though. What the heck was the just move it command? Is it middle mouse click? Nope, that's move the camera. Not just click and drag. Nothing in Blender is ever as simple as click and drag. It's G. Okay. Woo! So I can just move this point and do whatever to the shape. Make it like a watering can or something, or seagull beak. Anyway, that's not what we want to do. We can also select multiple vertexes at once, vertices, I suppose. But actually, I think this is one that'll be better done not in vertex and not even in edge select mode, although that's another one where we can just grab by the edge and do the same thing. Whoop, no, G for grab and do the same thing. Ourselves a little trapezoid here. Grab it. Yep. Where'd my mouse go? There it is. Cool. This is totally the shape we're looking for and not like an upside down pyramid that crashed into the sand. So instead of messing with that, I think it makes the most sense. We're going to go all the way to faces. The vertices are the corners, and then you've got the lines that are the edges, and then you've got the planes that are faces. And I can just grab this and do whatever. That's not what I meant to do. So there's a difference you may have noticed. Hold on. There's a few things that I've just done wrong there. There's a difference between grab, which lets me just... There we go. Got it. Okay. Going to face mode, selecting the face. Grab lets me just grab the piece and move it around. And it's like whoop 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 doop doop boop 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 doop. Anyway, whereas there's another option that I want to do that basically lets me grow another piece out of it like this. So I'm not raising that face up. I'm growing a new section. I can grab this face and grab it, which pulls it around, or I can do this and grow a new section. The difference between that is grab is just moving it around. Extruding is what it's called to do this. And I love the extrusion tool. It's extremely simple in concept, and the math behind it is horrendously complicated. So do be careful of not like breaking meshes and stuff with this. Mesh being sort of the gray surface we see here. This thing we're working with is technically a mesh. There's more to it than that. Like I said, I'm not going to try to give a good tutorial on here. We're just going to try to actually model, but also I'm simultaneously trying to remember how the heck to do this. Oh, I think that I want to extrude this little section up just a hair. I'll leave that there. And then I want to extrude each of these four faces outward. So I'm going to, much like with files where if you hold down shift you can select more than one, I'm going to do that. I'm going to hold down E and then shift again, and that's, nope, okay. What I've done is locked that onto the wrong axis, which is not what I want to do. I can do grab to move them around. Let me check my controls document, which again, I've got a hotkey reference doc from that Blender guru, who I do seriously recommend. Go check out Blender guru for a real tutorial. Or just stick around here while we mess with things and figure stuff out. Put that in chat. Good, the overlay still gets it. Awesome. I love having that on there. Super worth the time it took to set it up, which shouldn't have been much, but it was slightly more than it should have been. You know, as it be. Let's see, selection mode, not curve editing, modeling. Not proportional editing, not separate to new object. Oh, goodness me. What the heck was that control? Basically, there's one that lets us move everything outwards, as opposed to moving everything in the same direction. Was it? Oops, all I did was type E in my own chat repeatedly. That's not exactly what I wanted. And technically, I don't have to go all the way around this to do it. I could enter like this view, and then you can just select stuff through. But it gets a little weirder with faces. You've got to get like the little pink dot in the middle. That's what determines whether or not you're selecting it. Like this is in the middle of the top face. And it's not that hard to do it on the mesh view, which is where we can actually see the gray fill. This is wireframe, this is mesh. This is with some quick and dirty shading, and this is with it actually rendering every single time I change the view, which I think this view is using Eevee, so that's not that bad. That's kind of the fast and dirty one. You can also use cycles. This is fine where we're currently at, but it's also not that helpful because we don't have textures or anything on here. If you get this like a real complicated shape, this is going to slow way down. So we're going to stick with our normal mesh for now. We might up it to this once we add textures because we could actually see that. So what I want to do is E, but not locked onto that plane. Why is this trapped vertically? Okay, well, I guess one face at a time. Hate this. Oh, maybe what we need to do is just have opposite sides going? No, because it's locked onto the same axis. Okay, well. Why am I on axis snapping? That's not what I'm trying to do, so I'm going to do a quick little search. This is something you'll find with, well, programming for sure, but especially complex programs like Blender. You do a lot of searching, like how the heck do I get the tool to do this? When extruding, not when was extruding invented, but when extruding, how move extrusions away or apart? I should specify Blender, because I'm trained in Maya, and that's a whole different mess. Okay. Let's check out artistic render and see if this has some useful guides. Yep, okay, basics. Extrude evenly. Alt plus E. Alt plus E. I selected so many things except that. Is that gonna do it? I don't know if it's gonna play nice in the four-way mode, but we'll see. Oh, okay. Extrude faces. No, not along that axis. Don't want you to be extruding. Okay, actually, hold on. No, it's not that one. It's not snap. There's different types of extrusions. Alt E. No. I want to extrude away from faces. So let's see if that's an option. Extrude faces along normals. There we go. Okay. So instead of extruding, you know, upwards, just stuck along the z-axis, this one extrudes directly outwards from the normals, which is basically another word for the outermost edge, like the outermost faces of this. So, oh yeah, I could accidentally invert the normals real bad if I do it this the wrong way. And I have to be careful with this even so, but I think like this will be good. And so what you can see is that basically took this face and it moved it further away, and it took this face and it moved it further away, and did that for all of them, relative to the face itself rather than relative to just a default axis. There we go. That's what we wanted to do. So now let's use another tool, because we could extrude a little bit out the bottom, but I actually don't want this to be taller, but I still want to add the little like foot section you can see here, which is, I think, for the most part, actually flat on the gate itself. But we're going to try to give it a tiny bit of texture, mainly because I don't trust myself to draw an excellent texture map of this, or even a good abstract one, so I want a little bit more to work with. Plus, it's good practice to do things. So we're going to look for a thing called a ring cut, which again, I'm checking that guide from Blender Guru, because I know I saw it a minute ago in here. Ring cut, where are you? Am I gonna have to Control F this? I totally am. Ring. Not Elden Ring. Not render ring. Is it loop cut? Is that the issue? Is that why I'm not finding it? Yeah, it's loop cut. Okay. Control R. So let's just have this object selected. I probably want, I don't know if I have to be in object mode for this, but I think I want to. And I'm going to do Control R. Maybe I do need to be in edit mode. Oh, okay. So now you can see it's sort of got like this little outliney piece, and that's showing where it would split. So I want to split along this axis. And so I'm going to click to confirm the axis, and then I can adjust up and down. And I want this kind of near the base. Nothing crazy, not as tall as the top section. So we're going to put that there. And what that's done is it's taken, we'd been in the face view earlier where we could select faces. So now these are two separate faces. So if I wanted to, say, do that again, where we do Alt-E, extrude faces along normals, and just pop that out a tiny bit, we can do that. And boom! Now we're getting somewhere. I'm going to hold off on extruding these little edges up to do the spikes, because those are going to be a tad more complicated, and there's actually other ways we can attempt that. We'll see how that goes. However, let's see. However, indeed. This is actually looking pretty decent for one column, minus the top spikes. So I think I'm going to actually do a quick pause and use the restroom real quick, and then we will be jumping right back into it and keep on going. So far, so good, you know? For not having a chance to refresh. Oh, I guess I ought to actually save this someplace, shouldn't I? We're going to just call this Ishtar Gate Blend. Save Blender file. Okay, I'm going to pause for half a second, and we will be back in a moment. Howdys and salutations to y'all. Hope you're doing good. Hope the wait wasn't too long. Because I certainly appreciated having the chance to sort my thoughts out, because I think we're going to do a little more face extruding. And then we're going to look at the fact that there's an easy way to do this, and the slightly more complicated way that we're going to have to do, because the easy way requires a command I've forgotten. Oops. Let's see. So now we're just going to do that again. Extrude. No, okay. This is a different set of menus. There has got to be a Oh, actually, hold on. So I'll explain what we got to do too, and then I think there's a hotkey for that extruding along faces. I just need to remember what the heck it is. In fact, I can look that up now. Okay. Man, stinking. I never use Edge, but I had it open because I had a PDF reading, and I'm remembering why I never use Edge. It's garbage and full of political news. I'm closing it. Firefox, save me. I'm begging you. Thank you. Okay, Firefox. Blender, extrude along normal. Not along edges, fair enough. Hotkey. Really? Just that Alt A? Or Alt E, rather? Okay, I'll have to set up a hotkey for that later, because that's something I like to use a lot. But before we do that, we're going to do another thing, which we've actually done a few times already, which is called subdividing. Now, a loop cut that we did earlier is a form of subdividing, but you're basically taking a face and cutting it into smaller faces. So, I can just right-click on the selected faces and click subdivide, but that's not exactly how we wanted it to work. So, because it split it in four. Like, we can do a perfect example in this one square, 4 even subsquares. And it does the same thing for these rectangles. 1, now it splits to 4. That's not what I'm looking for. So let's see if I can't... There's a tool that allows you to do some different subdividing options. Just need to figure out where the heck it is. Oh, cool! In edit mode, we've got all of these options here. That's actually super nice. Oh yeah, and you can annotate, which is literally writing. I'm doing with a mouse and not a... Ooh, it's got some stabilization on it. That's interesting. Anyway, oh crud. No. How do I unwrite? Wait, hold on. No, give me your hotkey. Blender, erase annotation. Okay, so you can right click on it? I guess while in annotation mode. Nope. Oh. Where's the annotation in the menu? Annotation. Alt D is probably going to delete something else. I don't know how to select the annotation is the problem. That's interesting. Maybe I need to be in object mode for this. Active tool, select circle. Don't think that's, yeah, no. Made it worse. I made it worse. Blender, select annotation. See, it's all learning. Eraser, where's the annotation eraser? That, I don't see that as a tool. Sidebar view annotations. Okay. Window. Where's view? Oh, good. Option. It has subtools. How do I activate the subtools? Oh, hold down. I literally have to hold down, click on that. That's fascinating. Okay. Well, we'll just pretend that never happened. But I think, I actually learned how the annotation tool works. That's genuinely is handy. Let me go back to my normal cursor. And also, uh-oh. Okay, cool, we're back. Nope, we're not. Be back the hand. Select box, I guess. Okay. And if I were to say grab this, okay, cool, we're back. We're back. Back in business. I now understand what this does too. See, just sort of futzing around with it does eventually get you there. But I do seriously, like, get an actual tutorial. You'll learn enough to get started and move around in the interface and do some things before you get like frustrated to heck with everything. So, back to what we were doing. Not annotating. No. Absolutely not. I think I just want the select. I don't want the like transform. There we go. I'm gonna select these four. And I'm gonna try to figure out, I'm gonna subdivide, but right, okay. So that's gonna open up this little menu down here. So let's see if we can adjust the number of cuts, but I think it's gonna be in both directions. And it also is taking the interface, which I don't want it to do. Expressly not selecting that face. Like if I extrude, it doesn't do it. Take that face. How come when I subdivide it do? Oh, these subdivisions connect to this face? I wonder if I can unsubdivide the center, but okay, that then breaks things because, okay. So this is an interesting thing about sort of the logic that goes into these, and I guess this makes sense. Faces aren't really things per se. They're just drawn between vertices. So if there is a vertex along a face, it inherently is like part of that face. It's part of the lines that surround the face. So if I subdivide, say, this whole deal, that inherently, by splitting it with this line, it creates a vertex in the middle point of it in order to do that. And that in turn puts a vertex along the side of this center face, which means it has to subdivide it. If I unsubdivide this, it has to remove the vertex off the corner, so we get weirdness, which actually isn't the end of the world for what we're attempting to do, but like we're starting to get triangle geometry in here, which isn't really what we want. It has its place, but that place is not this. Yep. Technically a fix for a problem, but it's a super lazy, bad practice fix. So what I really want to do with these subdivisions to undo all of that, it feels like playing Simon Says, like boop, 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 boop. Okay. I want to subdivide these only like this way, and I want to do it a whole bunch. I don't want to subdivide long ways. So I'm going to look up the subdivide tool, not loop cut, because that's going to cut the whole vertical thing, and I'm not looking to do that. I want to add a cube. Yeesh. Rip is a wild tool. Let me find the subdivide menu. Blender, subdivide, menu. Yes. Okay. I don't just want subdivide, I want the menu. Also, Blender just had a big new release, so you have to be careful on guides that you're using 3.0 or later. Like, some of the stuff is still applicable from before, but some of it ain't. Okay. Let me
And
see what I can do on this. I'm gonna watch a quick YouTube tutorial, which feels like a funny thing to do while streaming, but you know, it is where we are at right now. Oh, this is such an old. I remember this version of Blender back from when I was in like middle school. Holy cow! I hope this still works. Their UI has improved so much, by the way. Holy cow! I had forgotten how rough it was. Still usable, mind. Still very usable, but rough. Okay, and they're using loop cuts for that part, but it's still not a solution for what I'm actually looking for. Fancy, but it's not helpful. Okay, well, we are just going to make the best of it. I wonder if I can do Alt Subdivide. Is there a Subdivide hotkey? It just opens this. Okay. Oh, okay, maybe it wasn't the vertex creating the singular point, because I guess it wasn't doing it on this side, so that understanding was incorrect. It was just because I'd selected all four, I guess it was messing with it? I'm not sure. Interesting. Wait, can I straight cut instead of subdividing? Hmm. Band cut instead. Um, that's not what we need. Okay. Subdivide. Let's see. Not split, I don't think. No, I think that's just going to separate it from the object or some nonsense. I don't want to mess with that. Okay. Blender subdivide along one axis. Internet, what do you have to say to me? Okay. Select opposite edges and choose. Oh, okay. So if we select the edges, as opposed, so we were in the face selector mode. We're going to swap to the edge selector. We're just going to select two opposing edges, and then we're going to subdivide. Hey, hey, there we go. And now we can adjust the number of cuts. Be something fitting. Okay, I don't want in, or not invert. I just want them to be right angles. I don't want them to fan out like this. Hmm. Straight cut. Is that gonna do it? Nope. Okay. I mean, I guess I could keep making straight cuts and it would still be balancing out between the two edges though, because it's trying to average the difference. Truthfully, on our model, it's not that big of a deal. And I may just not mess with it because I don't think it's gonna break anything. If I select these and do it again, yeah, see, we're gonna get the angle. That's fine. Um, then thinking about what we want this to look like. 1, 2, 3, 5. That give us a wide one in the middle, which isn't really what we want. And looking at the tops of the original, we've got a whole bunch across there. 2, 4, 6, 8. 8. Okay. 8 spikes, which actually means we would need 15 total subdivisions here. Interesting. let's go for 15 cuts and see what happens. If it's an odd number, how's it going to handle that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That gives us 16 segments. Actually, that's not what we want. Because we want 8 up and 7 down, so we want 15 segments, so that's going to be 14 cuts. Cool. Okay, there we go. And now, going to go back to the face select. I'm just going to test it on this before we do it on the others. Interesting. Okay. If you use control, then it selects everything in between too. But now, we're going to Alt-E, or actually on this we really can't just extrude directly up. Check the view. Height-wise, these things are always more vertical than I expect. So let's actually even go a little taller. Looking like a castle tower right now, but we'll be able to fix that. Because with a couple of loop cuts, we can make these real interesting. This is one of those things where I'm going to want to go to transparent so I can select, well, not transparent, but you know, not viewport, that's the shader, not viewport shading, mesh. Not mesh either. Oh, what the heck is, I said it earlier. I do know what this is. Wireframe. Thank goodness. Brain. I know we're tired, but work with me here, dude. Anyway, I think what we wanted was a loop cut on this, which we actually have a button for here, so hotkeys are usually better, but why not? I guess I gotta loop cut them all individually. Interesting. Sure, there's a way to do this en masse. Of course, it'd probably be better if I did that one of those loop cuts further down, actually. That's right. Test on one before doing the others. That's why we're only doing one side, and it's why we should be a little more cautious about how we're doing this. Not really loop cut and sliding with this, so let's... There we go. There we go, and that's dividing it fairly evenly, which is nice. Of course, I don't want to have to slide the same amount every time, or eyeball that, because that's kind of terrible. There's already slight variances there. But that may be just the limit of the loop cut tool for where we're at right now. It's gonna be real tedious if I have to repeat it across all the sides. But for eyeballing, that's honestly not dreadful. Anyway, I want to go back to the face select now. I want to go to wireframe. And remember what wireframe's called. And I only want these... Whoa, okay, nope. Wireframe. I want to move out of the loop cut tool. I'm only selecting the side faces when I grab those, not any of the other ones. And I want to Alt-G. Gonna let me do that? Because I don't want to extrude inward, really. That's going to do some weird stuff to the mesh. Granted, so's that. Control G? No, that's trying to group it. Alt G. I feel like that used to do something, but I'm sure I'm thinking of the wrong button. Let's see if I can't grab along normals. Grab along normal. Okay, that is a search. That transform orientation to normal 2. Give it point to okay, no, that's the phases along individual normals. Mood. Click the move tool on the left-hand toolbar. In the top left, it will have orient change from. Oh, okay. Oh, there we go. Normal. You can basically change what it's relative to. Cool. So then I would just. That's still problematic in its own right. Whee! No, that's no. Guess we'd only want to grab one side of these. But any option that doesn't let us do all at once is going to be too tedious to really consider. Like it's worth learning to do it a better way. Adjusting here. Well, actually, if I'm just selecting. Oh, but I still want the degree it moves to be consistent too. Okay, let's go back to mesh mode. I'll just only. Whoops, no, not that. Okay, fine. Temporarily, just to test if what we're trying to do is even going to work before I try to go and learn a better way. Don't optimize before you, I don't know, mise the first time. Okay, yeah, see, that's not ideal. Giving us a bunch of overhanging meshes, that's going to cause weird things. What I really want to do is just take this top box and scale it inward. Not that. Definitely not whatever that's doing. This is part of where getting those slants is also going to be a slight problem. I mean, even that's already doing weird mesh problems there. Okay. Okay. Oh, actually, this is a good example, though. Because normally, if we have this on the default, this is going to be aligned with our axes here that you can see on the ground and in the top corner. But when we set it to by the normal, it's all relative to this funky angled plane. In this case, I think I actually do want it default, because I want to try dragging this in and see what happens. And same with that one. Results are mixed. Okay. This is the kind of thing where I, should have prepped a little more in advance, because I'd have an easier solution to this piece right here, hopefully, by this point. I'm trying to think. Donut Tutorial never really had something quite like this. Maybe there's a different solution here. In fact, maybe the solution is quite a few steps back. Even before the ring cuts. Oh, come on, I can't go that far back. Ugh, fine. Delete the vertices. Okay, I guess these were the vertices that didn't get caught by that. You can see. Yeah. Okay, hold on. Some stuff got caught in that I definitely didn't want to get caught in it. Okay, let's go to this view. Select these, delete vertices. back to this view. Like some faces that I'm going to try to toss, and we'll see if we can't salvage this. Whoops. Delete faces. What is... Oh, good. Okay, so there's actually... That geometry is actually fine. So now I'm going to select just vertices, rather. I want to just get the ones in this little section. Nothing else. Right click. And I'm going to... New edge or face from vertices. There we go. So now we've got a new edge in there. It's admittedly got some slightly weird geometry on it. Or actually a new face, rather. But it's... There we go. It exists. Huzzah. Okay, and this is the point where I'm going to save because I realize it's been a while since I've done that, and that's unwise. So, let's go back. Let's start with a fresh one. We're going to... Oh, right. The way we want to subdivide is selecting the opposite lines, or edges, rather. Subdivide. We wanted, what, 14 cuts? Even if that's probably a little much. Then I'm going to select face-wise. We're going to select 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to extrude those straight up just a hair. And then I'm going to subdivide all of them along their edges. This is a messy solution, but it is technically a solution, and that means progress. Sometimes messy solution, so long as it doesn't cause problems later, which this one shouldn't. Or me clicking the wrong thing. But sometimes the quick and messy solution is the correct one, even if there's a more optimal route. If you don't know said more optimal route. Subdivide. 2 cuts. Actually, 4 cuts. That works out very well. I want to select faces now. Trying to get these middle 3 faces for each of them. Hopefully it's not going to select anything through. It does occasionally have issues with that, so I'm just going to check that I don't accidentally select the bottom while we do this. I think that was a relatively recent issue with the 3.0 release. Maybe they've got it resolved by now. I'm not certain. They didn't 2 months ago when I was last working with this. So anyway, we're going to extrude this up again, roughly the same amount. Looking at our reference photo here, these aren't terribly tall. And then I'm going to just select the middle faces and repeat. And we're just going to pop that one up. So the angles on that do cause it to be a little weird, but I think it's reasonably good for what we're trying to do. So we're going to take a quick pause, not me leaving, but just a pause from the modeling before I go and do that on the other 3 sides, because I want to look at a few other things whilst we're here. First off, I'm going to hit F12 and render this. Our camera's only going to see a weird foundation-y bit, so we're going to have to fix that. Still rendering, really got to get... So this is with the, like, Cycles, which is a very nice render engine that actually does, like, not just anti-aliasing, but it's, like, proper ray tracing. But it's set to a... Forget, there's a way to optimize this so it's not terrible. Because at this point, this would be fine for the render, but it's only, like, a tiny bit of the way through actually finishing it. We don't need this level of detail for what we're doing. And we can get a close enough approximation with much less effort. I just need to remember how. Blender Guru had good tips. It was under the camera? Well, really, it was under, yeah, the scene. Okay, so this tab. We're on Cycles as opposed to Eevee. Device, actually want my GPU to do this. That would also make this significantly faster. Not actually sure what my CPU is even doing, because my CPU doesn't have a built-in graphics card, so I don't know what processing it's using for that. Anyway, for the render, we're gonna what's the Was the trick to turn on denoise? I think that was it, and then we're gonna just bring this down to like 150 samples. And let's try this again. There we go. That's a tad faster and similar quality. Again, if you've got really complex shapes, you may want the high level of detail. We don't. But we're going to exit this render because our camera is clearly in a just terrible place. So let's select this. Or actually, I can select it right here. Let's see, there should... No, not the extrude. Okay, maybe I need to be in object mode while I'm messing with the camera. I know there's a... Come on, camera, give me your settings. I know you have camera settings. This just determines whether we're in orthographic or isomorphic. Is it isomorphic? ISO and ortho are the prefixes. Anyway, one of them keeps everything in proportion, but totally loses out on perspective. The other keeps stuff in perspective, but loses out on proportion. When you're 3D modeling, sometimes you need to see both. Right now, this shows everything in perfect proportion, but there's no perspective, so it looks stinking flat. Even as we rotate around, you can tell. But you can obviously see, like, okay, these are the exact same size, whereas this is a different height from another thing. Whereas in perspective, if we got, like, way up at this angle, like you can see the ones close to us look taller than the ones far away. Like if I draw a line right across, this one is like half the height of this one. If we're in ISO, that's not a problem. Their heights are maintained. But obviously this doesn't show you how it actually ends up looking in reality, so you kind of need both. Isomorphic games are really fun, and it's actually an art, like it's a cool thing in its own right that I really enjoy. Like just messing around with isomorphic perspective art. I guess it's not really perspective at that point. It's anti-perspective. Anyway, it's fun. Highly recommend messing around with isomorphic stuff. At least in terms of angles. I think in chemistry it's a different thing that's dangerous. I'm not sure. Let's see. Well, anyway. We got our render engine. I'm trying to move the camera. But, like, as you can see, I can line up my viewport to the camera. Let me select the darn camera object, will you? Okay, there is a way. Okay, what I'm trying to do, and I need to go look up the control for it, is I want to make sure the camera basically follows my viewport, like the one thing I'm looking at. So if I move around, like, this is my view. I'm not lined up with the camera. If I select the camera, I can zoom in to see what the camera sees. But the easiest way to fix the camera angle is to snap it to your view, so then you can just drag it around like your normal view, go to the angle you want, and you're just like, boom, camera's there too. Blender, not Blumper. Blender, snap camera to view. Okay, I guess we can also go like thumb 0. The keyboard doesn't have that option. Okay, one of these snaps it. Well, I mean, this is the thing that does it. So we're aligned with the camera view now. I can select the frame. Snap. Selection to cursor? No. Oh, okay, that was the issue. Snap. No, okay, I'm gonna look it up properly. Yes, hotkeys, use the gizmo, manual numeric control. World space. Snap camera view to the viewport. See. Like but doing this isn't moving the camera with me, because you can see I'm leaving the camera when I do it. So, instruction guide. Instruction guide? You failed me. Not parent. That's not actually going to do what we want it to do at all. I'm not inserting a keyframe. We're not even animating anything yet. And I do mean yet. One of these days, hopefully later this week, if not next week, we're totally going to do that. 3D modeling lends itself well to animation. Under view lock. Oh, okay. Bind the camera to the viewport. There we go. Okay, so this is the menu I was looking for. View, camera to view. Cool. So now we've got kind of this golden border along with our green one. I'm going to move the camera to our view. We're just going to focus on the top part of this right now. I'm going to unsnap it. Golden part's gone, and we could just leave the camera there. Okay, this menu. This was the in menu. In toggles it. Or this tiny little arrow here. Okay, nice. So let's do this again. Let's F12. Let's render this. We can see we've got an interesting light source over there. And yeah, I mean, you can see, like, when you've got this actual, like, ray tracing going, it's super nice. You get all the, like, reflections from the ambient occlusion and such. It's wonderful. So far, this looks good. I'm going to repeat what we did on the other 3 sides. We're going back to edit mode. Should be able to do them all at once. It's going to be a little bit of a pain, but it'll work. Right, we're going to do edge, 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 edge. Whoa, what did I just grab? Oh no. This one's got the tiny edges. Okay. I'm gonna have to double check that this didn't select some stuff on the other side. It's when I do group grabs like that it tends to do that. I also have a sneaking suspicion. Trying to do all 3 at once might break things. But we're gonna try it. Subdivide. Nope, okay, so far so good. Now when we put it up to 14. It's not working on this face, but the other 2 are. If I need to manually recreate these faces, then so be it, I will. This face. Subdivide. 5. Yeah, having the edge vertices is going to mess with it. Okay. Delete the face. What is happening? Okay, those are actually buried in there, so that's all fine. Let me... Oh, no, it did subdivide. It just... Oh, jeepers. I was afraid of that, actually. This is one face, so I'm going to go ahead and just delete this face. Let's try grabbing edges. Okay. So yeah, when I issued the subdivide command on everything, I'm going to have to undo that. Okay. Let's toss this face. Sorry, face. Knew it was going to bite me when I had to regenerate that. It always does. Go back to edge select mode. Let's grab ourselves some edges. And let's... New face from edges. Boom, we got ourselves a new edge. New face from edges. New face from edges. And before I go any further, let's test if subdividing this works. Okay, it does that way. And if I do it from the edges, does it work? Okay, yep, cool. I just need to make sure that these are actually aligned with all the vertices are connected to the right thing. So yeah, we'll just... Oh, I can just click F as the hotkey for that? Cool, that's easy. Blender hotkeys are a lifesaver, by the way. one of those programs where it's complex enough that having to navigate through menus is genuinely like a major time sink. I love how warpy this song gets sometimes. It's fun. I'm sure if I just subdivided the line itself and not the face, I could have gotten straight edges on this. That would have actually been a way to do that. It would have been tough, because I'd have to make sure I aligned the exact like subdivision sizes there. But like, no, it'll be good. Okay, that one's fine. Let's go ahead and re-subdivide these two, and then I think we're back in business. What? 14. Whoa, Kay, why are you doing weird stuff now? Hold on, let me test one thing. I just delete the face. Okay, there's not any weird geometry just clipped into it. Cool. If I subdivide the face as a face, functions normally. And if I subdivide it as edges, it appears to function normally. But if I were to increase the number to, say, 14, hit enter, then exit, okay, that looks fine. Oh, see, why are you doing that? I don't want you to create that form. Oh, it's because I somehow have that little edge selected. Okay, deselect all of that. There's edge 1. There's edge 2. Do not select middle edge. Oh, okay. So this actually ties into something we did earlier. Do you remember when I noticed that when I was holding down shift while selecting faces, that I can do 1 and then 2 and then 3 and then 4, but if I held down control, it got all the faces in between as well? Like even if I click way over here, just zoop all of them. Well, that's what I was actually holding control while I was selecting lines, so it wasn't just selecting this one and this one. It was also selecting a connecting line, in this case, this little tiny one. So let's remove that. There we go. Solving mysteries, and hopefully not rewriting history, although I am planning to create and animate the Ishtar gate, so that probably qualifies to some extent. We'll not think too hard about that. More subdivisions, woohoo! Lots of selecting, lots of selecting. Oh, hello! Welcome to stream, y'all! Hi, Diablito22. I am making, if you can see the model, we're trying to 3D model the Ishtar Gate from Babylon. It's a fun ancient site with interesting architecture, and it's also not bad for early Blender because it's very blocky and chunky and kind of plays nice with the early cube basics before we get into anything more complicated. Happy to have you here. Thanks for dropping by. Let's see. Right now we were just working on extruding, well actually we're subdividing these faces before we extrude them. So what that means is, I'm holding control again. I just went over why I shouldn't do that. So I'm using shift to select multiple of these little edges here. You can see highlighted in orange a little bit, the edges. And then I'm going to right click and click subdivide. We actually want to divide each edge into 3. And so what that's going to do is each of the little edges we selected, so it was one edge there, and it adds 3 cuts in that. So we're going to take this one sort of face that it was like this one, and we're splitting it into 4 mini faces using the 3 cuts. And then once we've subdivided those faces, it's easy enough, if I switch modes from grabbing edges to grabbing faces, I can just grab these middle ones, and if I hold E, I can pull them up. And that's how we formed these little points on this side to match the spikes you can sort of see in our reference. Make that bigger a little bit. We're trying to model these on the top here. Now, I've probably gotten them a little too tall, truth be told. But we can adjust that later. That's not so bad. Right now, it's just a matter of getting them on here. And also realizing that I should have subdivided that slightly differently. So we're going to undo, we're going to subdivide again, and we actually want 4 cuts to break it into 5 pieces. That way we can get this center point. I'm going to keep doing that around the whole shape here real quick. Certain there's a more efficient way to do it, but this is literally day 1 of our Blender month, so we're not digging too deep into perfecting this. There we go. Need to grab the edge. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15. There we go. That's the gist of it. We're going to run through this real quick, and then I'm thinking tonight I may not model the other tower and the arch between, because we've been doing a lot of the modeling and stuff, and I don't want to bore people out of it. We may take a pause and mess with the UV map to do some texturing, which is pretty good fun. And helps make it look more like a finished product, honestly. That's when it really starts to all come together. Let's see. Not using control, or else it connects everything in between. We're using shift, so we're only grabbing the relevant ones. 9, 11, well, 15 actually. 13, 11, 9, 7, 5, 3, 1. Please still work on these sides. I know they had some weirdness earlier. Okay, there we go. And also this one. Somehow I just missed that one. Oh, no, there we go. Not control. Okay, we're just going to start this side from scratch. So the difference between shift and control, as I was sort of saying, is if you're shift clicking, it only adds the one you picked. If you control click, it adds everything between your last selection and the one you picked. But when I control select, I end up grabbing a bunch of the wrong lines, and that messes with stuff something awful. So we're going to try not to do that. Grabbing these lines. Cross. I guess I should move the reference up a little higher. Where we're modeling right now, it's kind of in the way. I control clicked. Heck nabbit. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to warm up on Blender a little bit, so I am still a tad rusty on the controls. It's been a month or two since I was really in here. And even that was only for a little experimentation. Before that, it had been like, what, 5, 6 years since I messed with anything like this, and that was Maya, which is a whole different can of worms. And I will say, a much more expensive, and for most people's purposes, not better can of worms. I definitely prefer working with Blender. It has been nice. Okay, so we want to move. Nope, hold on. Let's get at an angle where selecting with a rectangle isn't going to be a challenge. Let me know if you have any questions, by the way. This stream is super open to being backseat. Like, you can backseat the heck out of me. I do not mind. I'm open to questions. I'm also open to, if you think I'm doing something stupid and wrong, let me know. We welcome feedback here. Obviously, though, like, it's not required. I'm not your homeroom teacher. I'm not here to force you to participate. If you just want to sit there and lurk, you are more than welcome to. You are not being graded on this. There will not be a test at the end. We're just going to keep going, selecting these. Kind of get an Art Deco look from this, which is fitting because a lot of Art Deco was inspired by ancient architecture, although primarily Egyptian. Art Deco movement of the 30s and to an extent the 20s. Really both. Very heavily inspired by the discovery of King Tut's tomb. And it shows. Okay, so now I'm going to do that extrude up. I'm going to try to match the height. Actually, I may go a little lower and then readjust those other ones, which is going to be a pain, but I think it'll be worth it for a little more authentic. We'll go about 2/3 on this. I'm going to deselect the outer edges. So actually, not the outer edges, because looking at the original, they don't deselect those. Another reason we'll want to rework these middle ones. That works. Fine by me. Much as sometimes the quick and dirty way is the right way to do it, sometimes it's worth taking a little extra effort to make sure something looks nice, you know? And now that we're not fumbling around controls quite as bad as we were earlier in the night, I think that we can take the time to do stuff a little better. As with anything, you kind of got to get in the groove when working with Blender. Just like any other art tool, if you go in cold, it's a bad time. So it just means it's worth doing warm-ups. Right? No. Doop-a-doo. Well, assuming that I can select the right things, this will be good. I'm gonna go ahead and bring these up another layer. Try to match roughly. I'm not doing anything with super precision here. This is just kind of a fun learning modeling thing. Okay, so now I actually want to deselect all and then just select the middle ones because that means I have to click one per spike instead of two. Oh. Okay, except on the edges, but that's still fine. I think I'm still net doing better. That is very much pointless optimization. This is not saving me a notable amount of time, and it is a waste of my effort to even think about that, but darn it, it's still fun to try to optimize things sometimes. Oh, hey, thanks for following! And thank you also, I missed him a minute ago. Or her, that we had another follower a minute ago. Yeah, absolutely, thanks for sticking around. We do a mix of digital art, also some gaming, mix of everything really. Right now, this month is Blender. We're doing a lot of 3D stuff. Next month, I think we're probably going to be doing sticker designs because that's not something we've spent a lot of time with before, and I think it'd be fun. Work on all the pieces we need to produce those. And yeah, we'll just keep on keeping on. Obviously, open to requests and suggestions and all that jazz for what people want me to do more of. As much as this is a digital drawing channel, my favorite medium is pretty much everything except straight up digital drawing. I like 3D modeling. I like all sorts of real world stuff from calligraphy to physical drawing and a sketchbook. Heck, cutting vinyl stickers. Chainmail has eluded me, but so help me, one day I will learn how to do it. Sewing, making stuffed animals, all that jazz. Like pretty much anything. I love hands-on physical crafts, but they're a little bit hard to stream with a screen capture. So until we get that part working, we're going to be working with what we got. So let's save for starters. That was a lot of tedious labor that I don't want to repeat, frankly. Not bad once, it's really annoying the second time. Y'all know how that is. Oh yeah, Timebreaker Lucas, absolutely. If you want to learn Blender, and I say this as someone who has taken an actual like college course on Maya, another 3D modeling program, and spent a lot of time trying to learn these things manually. If you want a quick-ish intro, normally for programs, the best way to do it is to just jump in and mess with it. Blender's learning curve is kind of nasty when it comes to navigating the interface, but once you get some of the basics of that down, it's not bad. But I really, really recommend. He's named Blender Guru, and it's a YouTube series. I'm sure if you've looked at Blender at all, you've seen the donut modeling tutorials. Even if you don't want to make a donut, it covers the basics in a pretty quick amount of time and in a way that you don't get lost. So many of the guides are kind of buried 6 layers deep in all of the different menus and skills and stuff. And like geometry nodes are awesome, but if you're throwing that at someone in the first 20 minutes of Blender, that's a stinking nightmare. So I highly recommend Blender Guru. It's a very well-paced introduction to a program that can be pretty overwhelming otherwise. But once you get just a little bit of the ways in with Blender, it's not bad. Yeah, the donut models are good. And then really, the trick is just doing more things. Every new project you come up with is going to be, you'll run into some new problem that you'll learn or some skill that you'll re-emphasize until it becomes more natural and you don't have to think about it. As for how long I've been doing 3D, I mean, it's hard to give a good number. Like I said, I did a college course. I spent a whole bunch of time on Maya, which is another one. It's by Adobe, so it's super expensive. And frankly, Blender can do, for the vast majority of things, pretty much everything Maya can do. So I've spent a lot of time with that, and then I had a long gap because I had to do the rest of college, and I'm a history major. Um, well, I was a history major. I've now graduated, so I guess I'm still a history major. I'm not entirely sure how. I guess that counts. Um, anyway, I have a degree in history amongst other things. Um, and so I didn't have much time to mess with it, and then I got a job, and then global pandemic chaos, all that jazz. So I've been a little busy, but I have been getting back into it recently and spent a few months practicing on and off. And I'm excited to finally be doing it on stream, where we'll be getting a lot more practice. Because frankly, that's the secret to why I stream, is it's an excuse to practice things that I would otherwise be too lazy to get myself to do. And yeah, creating from simple model, yeah, 3D printing is an excellent incentive to do it, and it forces you to have good like actual meshes. Because if you're just doing a 3D model, you can kind of botch the meshes, and like it's okay, you can fix it, or you just don't have to worry about it. But if you're 3D printing, or if you want to export to a game, then you have to actually have like kind of good practice, or else that stuff gets real tangled and it breaks things. So it's a good way to get good practice. Um, but yeah, you don't need to spend all that much time in it to start being able to create things. Let's see, we'll toss this face, we'll toss this face. And in case I'm sure y'all have a little experience, so you know the difference between being able to actually see the mesh and the faces, and then just being in wireframe mode. The benefit of wireframe in this case is I was able to sort of select through meshes and just grab all the points in a distance. So I could delete all these at once. But now I kind of want the mesh one, so I'm not selecting stuff I don't mean to. But yeah, no, creating simple models with a 3D printer is always good. Creating stuff. The reason I originally got into this, and it's still something I haven't actually done because time and interests and all that change. I was playing City Skylines back in the day and was like, you know what I want? I want skyscrapers that look like my actual city, the place where I live. Which I'm not going to say because I'm not a big fan of doxing myself randomly on the internet. But I thought the architecture was neat, and I thought it'd be a fun change of pace to have some more building options. And so I was like, what would it take to, do a quick little thing? The answer is quite a lot, it turns out, at least compared to what I was willing to do then. But now, like, not that big a deal. Okay, so I'm gonna patch these ones because deleting those left some holes. So I'm just gonna select the edges and then click F because that's gonna patch the hole. Well, create a new face rather. And I'm sure that pros would be cringing so bad right now because I bet there's like ways to do this in 2 seconds where you just select exactly what you need and it like heal gaps and you don't have to worry about it. But Blender's one of those programs you can kind of approach where you're at. Like it's sort of like in Microsoft like Word and I guess any Word editor at this point. If you're copying and pasting, you can do the right click and then like select copy and then right click and select paste, or you can just do the hotkeys and they both work unless you're using Google Docs because it's web-based and they can't do the right clicking. But for most of the time, they both work. And you really just, you use whatever you're comfortable with, and then once you're more comfortable, you can try learning the faster methods. Or you don't ever have to. You can stick with the slow method if you're more comfy with it. Yeah, stinking Paradox games are huge. Even just, I was like, I just want to make a little simple workshop model. That shouldn't be hard, right? Wrong. So painfully wrong. Yeah. Let's see. Right, I need to subdivide this and then extrude it. And to subdivide, I don't need to select the faces, I need to select the edges. So. Ba-doop. Yeah, sorry, this bit's a little bit repetitive. That's to some extent the way of things. When we someday, hopefully later this month, we'll bust out the node editors and some more complex stuff. It's not that complex, but it lets you do more. It makes the repetitive tasks less repetitive because it can do a lot of it for you. Okay, that's not. Where's my little pop-up menu? Am I in the wrong mode? I don't need to be in object mode for that. I need to be in edit mode. Okay, I guess undo also includes mode changes. Yes, subdivide. Huh. No, that's not what I wanted. That's intriguing. Not the in menu, because that's... Yeah, that's not going to be what we're looking for. That's up there. Is it the... Not alt. Whoa, okay. But that's the fun thing about clicking the wrong hotkey, is you find new things. That is not what we wanted, but it is certainly interesting. I'll have to keep that in mind for later. Pressing alt while this was selected let me do some wild stuff. So, but no, let's go back to this. Let's... Forget how we want to subdivide that. Let's... Not loop cut. I do want the actual subdivide wherever it's hiding. I mean, you can see I've been doing this for a while, and like even then, like sometimes it just throws me for a loop. I don't want knife. I want spin. So many wonderful options that will useful another time, but not right now. And that's the joy of Blender and Maya and all of these, is they can do anything. It's just you know, they may or may not easily show you how to do anything. Maya has the problem of throwing everything in your face at once, and Blender has that to an extent too, but a lot more of it is split out into subsections, so you can at least, like, sure, you'll never find it when you need it, but like, at least at the start, you can find some of the stuff you're looking for. Okay. Need to subdivide this specifically in... Yes, we can just do it again. That'll still... Well, no, because that's going to get us to 4, and we need a 5. Interesting. Yeah, no, that Alt-S is what was getting this interesting phenomena, which is why I was confused, because I was like, oh yeah, Alt-S, that's subdivide. So I think what's happening here is the issue is not the controls. The issue is somehow I'm in the wrong view or selection mode. Yeah. So I just need to make sure that we're... Okay, no, that's the actual selection tools. That's not what we need. What we need is not going to be object mode, obviously. And of course, there's the cheat that's a bad idea, which is just say, oh, that's in the back, it's fine. But no, I think if I want this, for what I want to do with this and what I want to animate with it, I'm going to have to do this properly. But let's, I think it's because I had to rebuild the faces. That may have been it. Not F, it's, I need the detail menu, basically. I'm just going to Google that one real quick, unless someone else just happens to have it offhand. But let's give it a look. Blender tool detail menu. That's certainly not what it's called. Context menu. Let's see. Blender subdivide context menu. Blender is in that wonderful place between like drawing and programming where you still have to look stuff up on forums and find that one post from like 7 years ago that explains how to do it. Okay, yes. Interesting. All this is telling me is where to find the subdivide button. Cool. Okay. You know, we will work with that and do what we can. Let's, oh, it's always fun when the playlist wraps around to Undertale music. Not bevel, not extrude. I'm just trying to see if there's... I guess we could unsubdivide. Interesting. No. Yeah, you know, the thing is, though, sometimes that 13-year-old kid, like, totally gets it and answers your question in 2 seconds. And other times they do not, and it's terrible. Those tutorials are a real grab bag. Okay. Well, I guess one thing I can do in the interim, and maybe it'll be enough to. It's probably not going to fix this, but sometimes it does. Let's go ahead and just extrude one layer up. Match the height to the neighbors. Again, if I was smart, I'd be using actual measurements for this, because I didn't quite get that right. If I was really smart, I'd be using isographic views, so there's no like perspective wonkiness. That's correct. Okay. Then now. Oh yeah, for sure. It's amazing what folks come up with. Like who've like just grown up and like this is just their hobby they do for fun outside of school. It's like, whoa. Okay, let's subdivide now is of course, well, I've got the whole face selected, so that's definitely not gonna work. Subdivide like that. I don't know why the context menu isn't coming up. That's really interesting. Well, I am not opposed to putting a pin in that, and I can go do some research on that off stream, because we've only got about 20-ish minutes left for this stream. So I think let's actually pause this. I'll come back and find a solution for that next time when we're streaming again on Thursday. And in the meantime, let's have a little fun with the UV map. Assuming it'll actually show it. Yeah, I'm sure I can texture paint just whatever on this. Like, woo. Assuming I'm in a view that actually shows. Really don't want to do this while rendering. Yeah. Man, it's been way too long since I did any of the actual texture painting stuff on this. And anyway, I want the UV editing, not the texture painting. Okay, material. There we go. We're gonna make sure we are gonna have to make sure we have a clear seam on this, but I want to see what it automatically does first. I'm trying to open not just like a blank UV edit here, but the actual. Interesting. And if I put my cursor, okay, so that's not. Yeah, this is just unrelated. I need to open the material that's on this specifically. Let's see. Ishtar column. Sure. Let's see. View, select. No. Open. There we go. Interesting that it would put me here. Oh, the donut textures from that tutorial. Okay, let's save. I'm not gonna mess with marking it as an asset yet. Let's see. Well, we can make it bluish. See what happens there. That's a fun reflective blue. Not quite what we're aiming for. Starters, I'm gonna have to up the roughness on that a fair bit. Let's give that another go. That's still gonna need more contrast and a better light source and a less dreadful camera angle. But for starters, that's at least closer. I found an old texture that's like, I think it's intended to be bathroom tiles actually, but it's not terribly far off from the sort of like baked clay blue tiles that this is made of. Clay, and I believe a not insignificant amount of lapis. But I'll have to dig into that a little bit. In the meantime, though, no, I don't want a new image. I want to. I did it with a cube earlier and had no problem. How have I forgotten the controls on this already? That's the joy of not refreshing on 3D modeling. If you let it, as with any skill, if you let it go long enough, it it fades. Use it or lose it, as they say. Okay, open UV map of model blender. UV editing, yes. Okay. Oh, well, this is the render view, so I'm not actually selecting the thing. Let's go to object mode, have it selected, and they say that unwrap is you? An interesting, maybe overly easy approach. Let's dig in here. Okay. Object mode, add menu, we're on mesh. Do I need to add the proper mesh to this before? Is that what's messing us up? Very possible that's where the mistake is happening. I think this has a mesh on it. Oh, no, that's just creating a mesh. Okay. Unwrapping the object. Okay. Theoretically, I should just be able to press U on the object according to this guide, and that will solve it. I don't think that's quite doing it. Let's see. Blender, unwrap, mesh. Unwrap. Mesh, UV, unwrap. Okay, so in 3D view, which we're in. Oh, nope, nope. This view. Let's just start here. Mesh. Here we go. Not bisect, not symmetrize. I saw it for a second there. Does that just snap? Am I blind? I feel like I might be blind. Or, oh, object mode. Try that again. Yeah. Part of the reason I take Wednesdays off is a chance so I can go look up stuff if I've got questions and concerns, and I think that I'm going to have to go do a little more research refreshing on some of this stuff, because, man, I'm rusty. Let's see. Unwrap or E? Possible I haven't specified good seams, but there should at least be an option for it. Even if that option then, does something horribly cursed. Let's give this a look-see. Not adding a mesh to the scene. Edit mode, mesh. Oh, UV, here we go. UV, unwrap. That do anything? Go in the UV editing space, give that another go. Well, that might explain why the hotkey wasn't working. It wasn't working. Yeah, I know, and there's always like 6 different ways to unwrap the cat. So like you never know if the one you're finding is useful or like from an outdated version or whatever. So yeah. And that's the whole point of these streams too. Sif Streams is not watching the pros do it. Sif Streams is learning along with someone who knows like equal, maybe slightly more, maybe slightly less. But it's so we're all in on the learning process because I think there's some merit to that. You just see everyone who's got the pros and they're zipping through it, then it's harder to follow unless they're a particularly good teacher. It's interesting that the unwrap option is here and it is still not doing anything though. And I assume that's not an option in object mode? No. Okay, edit mode is where it is. Art UV project. Let's try that. Ooh, interesting. Oh yeah, teaching is no small feat. And it's one of those curses of expertise. The way you become an expert is for a lot of things is basically getting it so it comes naturally, which means you don't have to think about the steps you're doing. You're just in the motions, and then you can focus on the more abstract or more complex parts. But that means that to become an expert, inherently, you kind of have to have forgotten how to explain how to do things. And so it's figuring out how to, you basically are almost relearning when you're teaching someone something. Okay, let's try marking an actual seam on this. That's going to be... Not sure that that's going to be a good place to have a seam, but you know, we'll give it a shot. It's at least progress. But yeah, no, that's why you can have someone who is an absolute master in their field who still can't teach worth squat, and why you can have people who aren't at all experts who can just convey information in the best way in the world, and it's just amazing seeing them in action. I'm gonna clear the seam. I don't think that was doing it. UV. Oh, jeepers, that'd be wild. Unwrap the mesh of the object being edited. I wonder if there's like a complexity issue, like we've got too many dense vertices, if I like need to merge some faces or some such, but that's not something I want to just trial and error. I have learned that's the kind of thing that can cause more problems than it solves. But I do think, looking at our reference, trying to match the angle here, let's see, move the camera down below over here. It's got kind of an exaggerated angle in that photo, mostly on this side of it. I think proportions-wise, that's looking fairly decent, actually. Not a bad place to be overall. Let's see. Okay, making some notes for stuff to look up for next time, because that is the way of things. And let's, oh yeah. I may actually, yeah, I think I may wrap a tiny bit early tonight because we've run into a few things, and at this point, I don't want to start something on 9 minutes that I can't really walk y'all through or show in any meaningful way. So, we'll be back again, same time on Thursday. That's 8 to 10 Central Time, which is, let's see, that's going to be, CEST is, I think, 9 hours ahead of that. So yeah, no, I'll send y'all on a raid. Don't worry, I'm not just going to leave you hanging. But yeah, absolutely, it was fun having y'all here. I appreciated the input too. Yeah, I'll admit I'm also fairly new to the whole Twitch streaming thing, so you may have to bear with me for half a second while I figure out the controls here. There we go. But yeah, let's go do a raid real quick. I think that'd be good. Y'all are welcome to stick around on the raid or not, you know, it's totally up to y'all. But, you know, hopefully it'll at least show you something else that's neat. Another fun channel. Twitch, I don't want to see your new features. I just want to click the raid button. Thank you. So let's go check out Muffant. They've got some cool stuff. Although it looks like they're playing Minecraft right now, but normally they're a pretty cool animation channel. Let's, I'm gonna drop y'all off that away. We will start that raid. Thank y'all for dropping by. It's been an absolute blast having you, and we will pick this up again on Thursday. Hopefully with slightly better controls. See y'all